Welcome everyone to the Success Elevated podcast. As always, I'm your host, Hayden Lee, and I'm joined by a very special guest this week, owner of C&R Magazine, Michelle Blevins. Michelle, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Hayden, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here, and we'll see how I do in the interview.
Well, this whole podcast journey in a lot of ways is thanks to you. You yourself have started a podcast, and it's been fun to kind of pick some ideas from you and pull some things that you've done. And I feel like I'm in the presence of a podcast genius. So I'm excited.
Oh.
I'm excited to pick your brain a little bit. It's going to be good.
I'm here for it. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, okay. So let's dive right in. You're the owner of C&R Magazine. You're the editor, the publisher. You wear all the hats. If you could describe C&R Magazine in a nutshell, what is C&R Magazine and what's so important about it?
So C&R Magazine, Cleaning and Restoration Magazine, is the oldest publication in the restoration industry. It's been around since the 60s. It's a little unclear when the original date was that it launched, but it is the oldest publication in the industry and considered the leading thought leader. That was a really silly way to put that.
No, that's great.
I would consider the top publication in the industry for education, for those thought leadership pieces, for really good content and educational pieces that aren't going to be necessarily driven by money being behind them. I guess I've really tried to position C&R, and it was positioned before I bought it, as a publication that was all about educating the industry, and advertisers supported it but weren't doing all of the content related to it, I suppose.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. Yeah. I feel like our audience here at the Success Elevated podcast is a good mixture of both just general entrepreneurs and business owners, as well as people that are in the restoration industry. So for those that are in the restoration industry, I mean, you guys, you're the thought leader. You're the magazine that people look to for information on what's going on in the industry, big time. And I think what you do is important in that way because it helps people know, what trends. I think trends that are going on in the industry are huge. People that they need to be paying attention to, and just all of that. But your relationship, with C&R has, your ownership, I guess, of C&R has only been for a little while, but you've been in the restoration industry for quite a while now. And I guess talk a little bit about your journey starting out in the restoration industry and how eventually you got involved with C&R Magazine.
Sure. Okay. So for people who haven't heard my story before, I was in broadcast TV before joining C&R. I was the executive producer of a TV station in Northern Michigan. I hated being in TV, hated doing stuff I was never on camera or anything. I just hated so much about TV. Anyway, I thought I would never do anything related to video, which is a little ironic now, but God shows us what's up. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I saw a random job posting for a magazine in the industry and applied for it. I knew that it had to do with fire, water, smoke, that kind of stuff. And I thought, that's interesting. I've been to some house fires and I've been to some localized floods and been to areas where houses, were raised up on stilts after there had been, recurring floods in that area. But I never knew what happened after the news crews left and after the emergency vehicles left. I had no idea what happened. And the big thing that I missed when I was at the TV station, because I was a producer and in-house all the time, I really, really, really missed the community interaction that I had when I was a magazine editor and reporter at my first job out of college. And I got to be super embedded in a very small community where everyone knew everybody. And I loved that. I had the opportunity to serve and be really involved. So I missed that the time at the TV station. And so I had no idea what I was getting into when I applied for that other magazine, but got hired. And this industry is all about relationships. I think you've touched on that a little bit already.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten to where I am because one person introduced me to somebody who introduced me to somebody else who introduced me to somebody else, right? And so we're this big interconnected, like family almost. So I've gotten introduced to people since day one. I was just at the Violin Executive Summit this last week, and that was one of my very first events in the industry when I got my last position 7 years ago now, in 2015.
Gotcha.
April of 2015 is when I joined. And, I walk around there thinking, gosh, there are people here that were some of the very first people. And some of those people were very instrumental in helping me get to where I am now, and powering my career so far in restoration. So now it's been a year since I bought C&R from the Restoration Industry Association, and we're just trucking along.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting you said that. I wanted to highlight that a little bit. I mean, there are hundreds, if not, I mean, I'm sure you probably know a better idea of a number than I do, but probably thousands of restoration and cleaning companies in the US.
Yep.
So, and then, you include Canada, like the number is just huge.
Yes.
But it really is a fairly tight knit community and fairly small. And like, you'll go to these events and you see the same people at every trade show, because it's a really tight knit community. And to that extent, like, relationships built in the community are so important. Networking is a word that I think a lot of people throw out a lot, not just in cleaning and restoration, but in any business or professional sense. Why is networking, in your mind, why is networking and building relationships like that important? And then to kind of an add-on to that, why is it important? And then how have you found the best way to do that, to build relationships?
Okay. So I think relationships are important for just building a business in general. I'm working on building my own business, but a lot of what I'm learning is coming from restoration contractors, which aren't in the publishing business, but they do know how to run a business, and they know how to serve other people, which is, I have a similar goal and outcome there. And so I think networking, the people is kind of everything. I mean, it's the same in your local market with building your business. Like, do you know those property managers you want to know? Do you know the facilities managers? Do you know the superintendent of the local school system? How many agents do you know? Like, so much of our business is relationship based. And so I've found, which I found it the same with the last publication as well. Relationships are what drove everything. It drove the content. They drove the ad sales. They drove everything. And without those relationships, I would be up a creek. I would be nowhere without those relationships. And then, so answering your second question about the best way to make those, I was thinking about this ahead of time. I have been fortunate to have people get excited to introduce me to other people. And even if I'm busy or I have a lot going on, I never turn down an introduction. If somebody is excited enough to come to me and say, Michelle, I really want you to meet this person, I am more than happy to entertain that, find the time, because those can be really fruitful relationships. And that there's a reason that those people thought that other person thought you should be connected, found value in the two people that they have a relationship with. So a lot of my good relationships have come from that. Like, I've told the story before of Jeff Jones from Violin dragging me through the trade show hall at RIA. I think my very first RIA, like, you have to meet Katie Smith. You have to meet Katie Smith. You have to meet Katie Smith. And she is one of my best friends and a mentor. I look up to her so much. And that was because somebody was hell-bent on introducing me to her. And I have a number of relationships like that. And I'm thankful for that. And I get really excited when I can also introduce people to other people. I love being a connector of people within this industry. And there's so many good people here that there's a lot of wealth to go around when it comes to great people.
No, that's a great piece of advice. Like, don't ever turn down an introduction. That's hugely important. And I don't own a business, or I'm not an entrepreneur yet. I mean, I hope to at some point, but just my little bit of networking that I've done at like local chamber of commerce events, like I've found that like really important relationships that I've built over the last like 6 months have been just because, like you said, I didn't say no to an introduction. I go to these events and I talk to people. I just open my mouth. And even if even if the conversations are a little awkward or a
Yes.
little weird at first, like just from being willing to like just say, hey, hello, my name's Hayden. Like I've built some good relationships that way. And I think the biggest thing for a lot of people is just overcoming that fear. I think especially if you're introverted in some way, like overcoming that fear of just saying, man, I've got to go talk to these people, but it's going to help grow my business if I do it. So
yeah, I found that, you might not find an immediate purpose for that connection, even when you make it,
yep.
but you might find a purpose for it later.
Right.
I've had that happen where I'll meet somebody and I'm like, okay, well, it's great to meet you. I'll totally reach back out. If I have anything, if you ever need anything, feel free to reach out to me. And then somebody else will come to me and be like, hey, do you know somebody that's a good public adjuster or, something like that? And it's like,
Right.
I just met someone.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's been a learning curve for me, is not feeling indebted to the people that I'm getting introduced to, feeling like I need to do something for them instantly, because I am kind of in that place where I have services to offer and
Right.
exposure and things like that. So balancing those expectations has been a little bit of a learning curve for me, but we'll get there.
That's great. That's super important. That's, I got some great advice, and I think it's a good combination with your advice. A couple of weeks ago, I had Len Hume on the podcast.
Yep.
And he said the best way he's found to build relationships is once you've made that initial contact, like you've said, once you've opened your mouth or you've said yes to an introduction, he goes into every relationship wanting to know how he can help that person.
Yes.
Not asking how that person's going to help me, but how I can help them. And he said, I've built, long lasting, lifelong relationships with people going into that saying, how can I help them? Not how can they help me? How are they going to make me more money? But how can I help them? And I think combining that with your advice, opening your mouth, saying yes to an introduction, and then being willing to say, okay, how can I help this person? Like that is how you're going to do it. And that's how you might not immediately notice, an increase to your dollar amount or your revenue. Like you said, it might not immediately help you, but it might help your friend, and it might help a business down the road from you. Like it's just going to help everybody if you're willing to open your mouth and go into those relationships asking how you can help. And I think it's really cool.
It does come full circle. I just read a book called The Go-Giver, and that is the concept of the main character in the book is kind of a storytelling type book, but it's business growth, that kind of stuff. The main character is this not one of the main characters, a very successful business person, but he's known for giving. Yeah. But it totally comes around. Like that is, I think, the best way to run a business is keep serving and keep giving. And it totally comes back around to you.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, some of these relationships that you've built have been with people that I know pretty well, but talk a little bit about how you originally first met Derek Priest, Katie Harris, and what it was like to first meet them, and then how that professional relationship grew into what it is today.
Gosh, I don't remember. I bet they remember what trade show it was, or it might have been a Violand Executive Summit.
I'm not entirely sure. It could have been
where I first met them, but honestly, I remember at my last job, I didn't have control of the social media pages. I had to use a very wonky third-party app that it didn't have a mobile version. So I would be at trade shows trying to update social media pages for my last company, and it was a nightmare. And they would look at me and be like, but you're the editor. What do you mean? Why don't you have access to these things? I'm like, that's just company policy. I just don't have it. And they're like, no, but you're the editor. So one day I'm sitting at my cubicle and this package shows up for me. I don't know where it is now. I don't know if I still have it or it got thrown away with all my stuff, but they sent me a t-shirt that said, but I'm the editor on it, so that I could walk around and be like, let me update my social pages. You guys are making my job really hard. So that's
awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of where it started. That was, I was a baby in the industry when that happened. And they've been really good to me ever since. So they are, you probably know, SOS is the power behind C&R at this point. I mean, Katie was one of the first people that I was able to kind of entrust with the knowledge that I was going to get to buy the magazine, and we needed to start working on a website. When I bought it, there was no website at all, just a landing page on the RA's website. So we had to start from scratch to build
Wow.
a magazine website, which is more intense than building like a restoration company website. I mean,
100%.
yeah, and they were totally up to the challenge. And Katie and Derek really, especially Katie, kind of like held my hand through all of it. Were so gracious with me, and same with Melanie and Melissa through all the changes that we needed, just stuck in there with me. And so now I mean, C&R is truly powered by SOS, as is the Restoring Kindness Project now, and so many other things. I feel like anything that you see that's digital related through C&R is pretty much powered by SOS. And I'm really thankful for that. I actually worked with SOS a little bit, gosh, in probably like 2017. I was a freelance writer when I was looking for kind of a side gig. I did a little bit of like ghost writing, blog writing for companies to put on their websites, writing about, water damage with certain SEO key terms and stuff like that. But so yeah, the relationship has been robust, I guess. I've gotten to do
awesome.
dinners and lunches with them in Captiva and other fun places, and I am very thankful. It's a perfect example of a relationship that has turned out to be extremely fruitful and exactly what I needed. Like, I can't imagine if I had been trying to build a website with a company that didn't know the industry or that I didn't have a close relationship with, because it did require a lot.
Well, I can say, on my end, we've really, really appreciated your insights into the industry. We know digital and we know cleaning and restoration, but it's been cool hearing your thoughts and your opinions on like I said before, trends that are going on in the industry and how to write good content and all of that. It's just been, I can say on our end, it's been really awesome to work with you guys and help work on the C&R website. And yeah, it's been really, really cool. You hit a couple things there that I think I want to, as we kind of transition into this a little bit. We've SOS Spot On Solutions has partnered with C&R on something called the Expert Panel. And the idea behind the Expert Panel is to increase our voice in the industry by helping connect experts with other experts through questions that that are going on in the industry. And currently, a question that we're working on right now is about trade shows and why trade shows are important. You've mentioned several of them, between the one at Captiva and the Violand Executive Summit and all this. Why do you think, Michelle, trade shows are important, and how can business owners get the most out of trade shows?
There is no place better to meet a multitude of people quickly and all at once than a trade show. It's not the same as an online virtual class or whatever that may be. And there are so many different trade shows in the industry. I think that there's something for everyone. I think that you can find what you're looking for. My biggest advice for getting the most out of the trade shows is make sure that the ones that you're choosing to go to match your goals. Like, are the educational options that they have what you want to learn about? Are there breakouts related to topics you're interested in or need to know more about or whatever? Are you going to be willing to commit to going to the social after hours events and not skip out? Like, if they're in Vegas, it can be hard to convince people, hey, you really should go to the reception tonight, versus, well, we could go out to the Strip and there's a lot of fun things to do there, right? Or go to the pool or whatever that may be. So I think it's okay to find some balance. I think it's difficult to be at a trade show and go from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and then have dinner with people and whatever. That is a lot. I think that there has to be a balance, but there really are trade shows for everybody. And every trade show is a little bit of a different level. I think I've learned that more this year, being on the publisher owner side versus editor side, where I was there and I'm like, I'm just happy to see everyone. I don't know. Now I really see the difference in the contractors that attend different trade shows, really the niche that each different show is going for. So I think that there's something for everyone, and definitely value to be had if you're picking maybe one or two a year that really fit what your goals for your company are. And don't go by yourself. If you're just the owner, don't go by yourself. Bring some of your team.
Yeah, because I could see how that could get a little overwhelming if you're there by yourself.
Yeah, I see a lot of people divide and conquer. So they'll bring, maybe 2 or 3 people from their team. And it's like, unless it's a session that they all care about, then they'll go together. But sometimes it's like, okay, you go to this session, I'll go to this session. And then you can absorb a ton of content when you're all there and, compare notes. Or if you're going to a trade show where they have different tracks based on your position, then like, hey, my salesperson has these specific biz dev places that they can go. And then my ops person can go to the operations ones. And so there are a lot of different ways to navigate them.
I'll be honest, I was a big anti trade show person before I started working with Spot On Solutions. I get anti trade show is probably a little harsh, but I just didn't see the point behind all of this, especially like, I always have had dreams of owning my own business, being an entrepreneur, like all of these big, like leadership things or these big, like rah, rah, rah. Like I didn't see the point behind them. And, I can say now after, working with Spot On Solutions that they are hugely, hugely important. If for nothing else than like how you've explained it, like just building relationships, meeting other people in the industry. And if you go and you do it right, you're going to get way more out of it than just that. You're going to learn new ways that people are, maybe drying out or, like you're going to learn new techniques on how to be better at your job or how to organize your team. Like you're just it's going to elevate your team if you're willing to go to these trade shows and get the most out of it. You can go and just hang out with your friends and drink and party the whole time. But if you go and actually try and get something out of it, like they can be hugely, hugely successful.
Yes, I agree. And most of them, other than the main keynotes, most of them in this industry aren't like the rah, rah, rah. Like because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
And I think a lot of them do a good job of bringing in education. That's
right. Like they actually give you a plan. Like, this is how you should do this. This is how you should, like, they actually give you a plan. It's not just go work hard, like it just seems like there's a lot of that out there, both inside and outside the restoration industries, that there's just a lot of, well, you just need to work harder. And I get that, but there's got to be some information out there that can actually help me grow my business. And, Derek and Katie go to a lot of these trade shows and they get some really awesome stuff from them. Even as us, who we're a vendor, right? Like we're there to like do digital marketing and help, restoration owners do their digital marketing. Even as a vendor, like they go and get great information out of it. And they're very, very important. And I think if you do them right, they could be very successful.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree.
With that, I wanted to kind of hit on a couple of things. I was cruising around C&R's website, and I noticed that it's you and your husband, right? Yeah. And then the rest of your team is all women in the industry. And I was talking to Katie, and Katie has been big on this, and she tells it to me all the time. And I think I've started to notice it as well. There are some real powerhouse women in the industry right now, in the cleaning and restoration women. And she says that all the time. And I've really, really started to notice that. Why do you think, at least, as of late, why do you think there are so many powerhouse women in the restoration industry? And what are some things that, maybe you've done to, I guess, elevate yourself and other women in the industry?
Gosh, I don't know why. Yeah. Maybe there are more women who now are stepping out on their own to really, like, I've stepped out on my own. Rachel Stewart is somebody who immediately comes to mind, who's really been making her mark. But there are other women that I've known over the years also that I think are just kind of coming into their own, like Marcy Richardson from Guarantee, who does HR. She's awesome. Ashley Carpenter is the same. There are a lot of women now who just seem to be stepping out and stepping into their own and owning their position. Katie Smith is a great example. She's going to be a wonderful president for the RIA, and she's been serving, not in the background, but she's been serving for a long time. And it's nice to see more women coming into these higher leadership roles in the industry. She's only the 4th female president of the RIA ever.
Wow.
And I'm excited that my company is mostly women. I love that.
Yeah.
And they're all moms. They're all other than my husband,
so
obviously.
Great.
They're all moms. Well, okay, no, I shouldn't say that. My one art director is not a mom. I shouldn't say that. But most of my team were all moms with young children and making it work. And I love it. And I'm proud of that.
Well, okay. So you hit something there. How do you make it work, Michelle? I know it's a ton to balance. I can't imagine, but I try to imagine what it's like to balance all of that. How do you do it? How do you manage all of the things, wear all the hats that an owner of a company has to do? How do you do it?
I don't know that I do it. I do it to my
You
best,
do. Stop
the
it.
best
You
of
do
my
a great
ability.
job.
Like if I was to turn my camera around, so people who know me know that my desk is in our master bedroom. Our house, when we bought it, doesn't have an office.
Yeah.
Because when we bought it, we were working in offices and we didn't,
Yep.
I thought that was going to be a waste of space in a room we never used. And so we decided for a big laundry room, mud room versus where the office would have been. Great. So I work out of our master bedroom. And if I was to turn it around, you would see laundry and toys, and it is a disaster on the other side of my screen. And the rest of my house sometimes looks that way, even though I consider myself a pretty clean person. But a part of it has been learning to ask for help, learning when to say no, and prioritizing. So my mother-in-law is a huge help to us. We have a great babysitter who helps, especially when I travel or if my mother-in-law is gone or I know I need to work a long day. I try to give myself a set number of hours. Like I know that I'm going to start work hopefully at 8 and be done and unplugged right around 4, hopefully, and then have the evening with my kids. And if I need to hop back on later after they're in bed, then fine. But I try to really be aware of that time period of giving them my time. I try to do the same on weekends unless I really have something pressing. But I think time management has been the biggest key, and scheduling everything out. I have to schedule my workouts in. I have to schedule everything in. Everything is on my calendar. I even have a shared calendar with my friend group so that we all know what's going on. And they're like, oh, look, Michelle's traveling again. Look, she's in Florida for the second week in a row. They're like, well, we'll see you never, but fine.
That's awesome.
So I have to schedule everything out. That's how it works. But I would say it's not a perfect game, right? Like I just told my house is a disaster right now and I hate that, but I have to pick priorities. And it's like, well, I guess I'm going to get to that tonight while I'm spending time with the kids. And then maybe they're kind of with me as I'm tidying up and I have to get this work done now. So it's prioritizing and asking people for help, hiring the right people, putting the right people in the right seats. So it's not all on me, and giving myself grace.
100%. I haven't worked as closely with you as some other members of the team, Michelle, but I know you do a better job than you give yourself credit for.
Doesn't feel like it, but thank you.
I'm really inspired by a lot of the, I have several clients that are women and that own their own restoration companies, and just constantly inspired by people that are figuring out how to balance it all. And I think, you're hitting on some great tidbits that I want to make sure people don't miss. That, think little tips like scheduling. Like make sure you schedule things out as best you can. Like that'll make sure everything's accomplished. Give yourself grace. Like it's not always going to be perfect. Like things like that, I think, can really help people find a way to balance it all. And I've noticed a theme with everyone that I've talked to that's owned a business. I've noticed a very common theme as we've gone through this. Their business has really grown when they have decided to relinquish some of the control.
Yeah.
And once they do that, almost without fail, their business sees, exponential growth. And I think that's also applicable to like personal life. Like when you're willing to say, okay, I need some help. So yeah, mother-in-law, mom, can you come help me? I'm going to get a babysitter. Like when you're willing to say, okay, I'm going to ask for some help. Like it just relieves a lot of stress if you're willing to do that.
Yes.
And I think you do an awesome job. And I wanted to, without going too far into it, I talked to it a little bit about Katie when I had her on the podcast, what she thinks of the industry and how it is being a woman in the industry. And, you know, she highlighted it then. Sorry, I've got a cough. She highlighted it then. She said, you know, I haven't really noticed having to fight against stereotypes or anything like that, but I have noticed there are some powerhouse women in the industry, and it's really cool. It's a cool time to be a part of it. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure I highlighted that. But what do you think, Michelle, without going too far forward, what do you think of the future of C&R? What are your goals for the future of C&R? What are you hoping to accomplish in the next 5-10 years? What are you hoping for it?
I hope that the magazine and the brand keeps growing. I hope that it truly is cemented as the number one place people are going for education. I hope that it grows from what it is today with the magazine and podcasts and a few things here and there to everything that people need. Like, it's a direct shoot to whatever kind of training that they're looking for in the industry. I'm hoping to start doing ebooks. Oh my gosh, ebooks next year, on having content that is what I would say evergreen, like journalism term, kind of evergreen, that's never going to go bad. So like, there might be an ebook that has 5 or 6 thought leadership pieces from educators in the industry on mold. There might be another one that's on media blasting. There might be another one that's on odor removal, and have these like really educational ebooks that people can download whenever they need them, that are going to help walk them through what they need to know about a certain segment of the restoration process. Because the magazine itself is bi-monthly. So I feel like that leaves me 6 months of the year where I want to make sure that there's always content hitting the website, but I want something more tangible, like that they know is coming and they can plan on. I'm hoping to do more webinars and lunch and learns, even if they're quick. I feel like I'm blessed to know so many people in the industry that I'm hoping that I'll be able to pull in thought leaders, once a month to cover a different trending topic or something I know people want to learn about. And one Thursday a month at lunch, come join us if you can, and then move on with your day. I just hope it keeps growing. I hope that people continue finding value in it, and that it maintains the level of respect that it has had over the years, that was grown long before me. It's been my goal to maintain that legacy and the amazing reputation that the magazine has. So we'll see.
That's awesome. Well, I'm excited for the future. I really think you guys are set up to really take off, and I hope in some small way SOS can be a part of it. And I'm excited for your guys' future. So.
Well, Hayden, thank you for having me. And SOS has been a big part of it. That is for sure. I just got to see Derek last week, and I saw Len as well. And I'm sure that I will be seeing both of them many more times this year. And it's always wonderful. I'm very thankful.
Good. Well, I want to close with, I won't keep you too much longer. I want to close with the 3 questions I always ask everybody.
Okay.
So you already mentioned a book that you're reading right now, but yeah, is there any book or podcast that you really love, or that you're enjoying reading or listening to right now?
I am a fiction reader, not a nonfiction reader. I have a very hard time making it through business books. I think because I read so many articles throughout the day that by the time I get
you're
to
consumed by content. Yeah.
I can't do it. So I would say my top fiction books, for anybody who likes fiction around here, and there are not so recent, but The Giver of Stars and The Nightingale and maybe The Great Alone. I will throw those 3 out there. But anybody who likes fiction, feel free to reach out to me. I've read a lot of books, a lot. I'm part of a book club, and my husband's always like, how do you make it through these books so fast? It's like, oh, but they're so good.
That's great.
As far as podcasts go, I also am more of like a true crime junkie, but I love EntreLeadership. I really enjoy that. I enjoy anything by Brene Brown, which seems stereotypical to say, but I enjoy other podcasts. I've listened to your podcast, and I've enjoyed others in the industry, Head, Heart, and Boots. And
they're awesome.
I feel like I shouldn't even say podcast out loud, because we'd be like, Michelle said theirs and not mine. All you podcasters out there,
too many people. You have too many friends, Michelle.
It's there's a lot that I enjoy. My husband and I are Dave Ramsey junkies, so we listen to a lot of what is it called? The Ramsey Show now, I guess. It's not even the Dave Ramsey Show, the Ramsey Show. So I guess that's where my entree leadership enjoyment comes from as well. But
that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Second question. This kind of ties back into how do you balance it all, but what do you do to relax or recharge at the end of a long day? I know you wear a lot of hats and you have long days. What do you do to relax?
Definitely reading. That's a big thing.
That's a good one.
And I guess it's not relaxing, but getting workouts in is super important to me. I'll just throw that out there. But I'm a 6 a.m. workout person. So I have to get up, get my workout done, and move on with my day. Because if I don't do it at 6 a.m., it's not getting done at all. I will go all day in my workout clothes and then change out of my workout clothes to go back to bed if I have not worked out in the morning, even though so that keeps me way more centered. If I don't work out, I'm a little crazy. So
that's great.
Reading, I guess, and spending time with my family, I also enjoy.
That's great. No, those are awesome.
Yep.
Last question. If you could rewind to the beginning of it all, whether it's the beginning of your journey with C&R or your beginning, in the industry, in the cleaning and restoration industry, if you could rewind, what would be one thing you would tell yourself?
Oh man.
It's tough.
I would tell myself, hold on, you have no idea where this is going. If you would have told me 7 years ago that I would be where I am now, even a year and a half ago, if you would have told me that I would be where I am now, I would have been like, yeah, that's impossible. Impossible. There's no way. So it's just, again, God being like, watch what I can do.
That's great advice. No, it's been funny asking this question to all of my guests, but a lot of them have said, similar to yours, patience. It's gonna be wild. There's gonna be ups and downs, but hold on, have some patience, and it'll all work out. So,
yeah, I feel like this was a little fast track for me. I feel like to go in 6 years from not being in the industry to owning a publication in the industry, that was a fast track. That felt fast for me. And never could have dreamt that. So.
Oh, that's great. Well, Michelle, I sincerely appreciate you coming on the podcast. It was great. I think you have some awesome insights into not only your world, but to just, owning a business in general. And I really appreciate you having you come on, and I'm excited for your guys' future. So.
Well, Hayden, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Say hi to the SOS team behind the other walls behind you in your amazing new office.
Will do. Thank you.
Yep.
This has been Success Elevated, making you a little bit better one show at a time. Thanks for joining us. Subscribe on any major podcast platform or check out our website at successonpoint.com.